Hi, and welcome to Fan/Fiction with Andrew/Zach. I'm Andrew Gum.
I'm Zach Dunsing.
And on this special Halloween episode, we discuss Slasher Slash.
And the most goth film of all time.
Get ready to be scared.
You know what our producer dressed up as for Halloween?
What?
Michael. He had an American flag t-shirt on and had face paint on like the Crow, and he went as Goth Brooks.
Oh, that is good.
It's pretty solid. Yeah, he had like the wireless headset microphone and everything. Cowboy hat.
Oh, good for him.
It's pretty solid.
Happy Halloween, Zach.
Happy Halloween, Andrew, even though it's, you know what, they'll never know. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, this is happening and releasing on Halloween. Mm-hmm. Whether or not that's true, we can't tell the future. So.
Today is Halloween. How about those midterms?
Yep. They're so spooky.
It's Halloween of next year.
Yeah. It's a
thing. What a radical shift this country took.
I know, seriously. I mean, who expected? Well, I think we all expected the Great War, but
sure. But I can't believe you can just hunt them down like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You mean it does make sense, but it in a brutal way, like in a purge kind of a way.
Yeah.
But
yeah. The legislation just passed rather quickly is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So, good people of Halloween 2020, hello, and I hope that the bunker is holding and that, this is coming through okay. So,
I'm sure some idiot executive has pitched the idea of Halloween 2020.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know that after the success of this Halloween...
Of David Gordon Green's Halloween?
Yeah. Which, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's
I haven't seen it.
It's fine. But they're definitely going to make another one now because it made a bunch of money. So.
Weird, yeah. I mean, I am a fan of David Gordon Green, even like shit like Your Highness that nobody but me likes.
I like Your Highness. It was such a dumb idea that they really committed to, which I thought was great.
I think that's the problem. I think that's why people don't like it, is because it is a dumb premise and it is just a stoner comedy, but they actually commit like 110% to the fantasy element, and I think that like throws a lot of people off.
Yeah, like they tell a full-blown fantasy story. The scene where he, in Your Highness, where he crushes up a fairy and snorts it is pretty intense.
Yeah, it's great. I'd say that it's like, I don't know, it's like basically the same thing that Rick and Morty is, just maybe a little bit ahead of its time, which is why nobody liked it.
Yeah. Well, it's a totally decent entry into the slasher movie pantheon or whatever. But there's something about just slasher movies that just don't do it for me, because it seems like the only real theme that they're wrestling with is it would be a real bummer to get stabbed.
Yeah. Well, you'll like some of the content I'm talking about today because it's actually slashers. So
really,
there's an added element.
Great.
I mean, it's not real. I mean, not as elaborate as that sounds, but
that would be a funny. I wish I had looked for that specifically. All slash involving all of the different male slasher villains, like Mike Myers and the Scream kids.
Well, yeah. So. Yeah, well, I mean, should we just get into it?
Yeah, dude. Tell me what you find.
Well, I'll start with the first one. So I basically, because it's Halloween, I tried to exclusively find Halloween-themed slash fiction.
Well done, man.
One of which is just called Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers. And
excellent.
It's basically...
Who's a top, who's a bottom? That's the big question.
I think what they're implying is that Voorhees is the top here because... I guess he's the taller of the two.
So
they
both seem like pretty big dudes, but I guess
think they
Jason,
are big. I think they are big dudes, but Jason is taller. At least they mention that several times in the story, because the whole thing is that like Michael Myers is just hanging out in a stolen hammock, in a hammock that Jason stole for him from the community.
So sweet.
It is sweet. They're just so they live on the lake, naturally.
Crystal Lake. Crystal Lake.
Yeah,
great.
Camp Crystal Lake, or I guess just Crystal Lake. So yeah, they're just hanging out. Well, Michael Myers is just hanging out, like kind of moping around because he's upset that Jason is out killing teenagers, but he couldn't
without him.
Well, he was with him at first, but then he noticed that one of the teenagers looked like his older sister, now dead. So
and he loves killing his older sister or anyone that reminds him of his older sister. So probably got a little jelly.
Well, yeah, he did. He got upset from seeing someone that looked so much like his older sister, and then had to go home while Jason is out killing the rest of these teens. But the whole thing is that, Jason comes home. Also, here's the only note from the author in the story. It just says, notes. Don't ask me about the dogs. I just picture Jason as a dog person. Because on their lake house,
now
they have
that I
a bunch
think
of
about
dogs.
it, I do think of Jason as a dog person, you know?
I don't know if he's a dog person, but he's 101% not a cat person.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The only cat person in horror is Freddy Krueger. He's definitely a cat person.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, Jason comes home and is like, are you okay? What's going on? And Michael's like, yeah, I'm just upset because... Yeah, sorry, quoting here. It's just that, Michael sighed, it's just that one of the girls that were trespassing looked like my sister Judith and I... And then he breaks off and kind of starts crying.
Wait a minute. They're both talking? Isn't that the whole thing? That neither of them ever talk?
Okay, so here's the whole thing, right? So they have this long, like, heart-to-heart, right? And there's, like... Basically, they have this heart-to-heart until Jason starts saying increasingly up things. Basically, he starts saying increasingly up things until Michael gets upset with them and is like, like you're saying these things. But then they're about to, like... get down and dirty by the fire, right?
Sure, yeah.
As consenting adults do.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ring at the doorbell, and they're like, "What's going on?" So Michael goes and checks it, and it's his niece. So it's, I guess, the dead sister's daughter, who he has, and I'm quoting here, a great relationship with.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah,
really bridging old family strife, like murdering her mom.
Exactly. So there's this whole thing where, like, Michael leaves to go get something from one of the other rooms, and Jason's just standing there, and the niece is, like, trying to make small talk with Jason, but gets increasingly annoyed because he doesn't respond at all. Like, he doesn't say anything. He's just standing there.
That's his whole vibe. Apparently, he only talks to his boo.
Well, yeah. So that's what the story is implying, is that they communicate very affectionately and have, like, really great open line of communication between one another, but do not say a single word to anyone else.
Oh, well, that's very sweet. I like that imagining. It's like they save up all their words just for pillow talk.
Mm-hmm. So that's, that's basically it. They just talk, and then the niece leaves, and then they, like, get ready for bed, and there's some, innuendo.
Mm-hmm.
The next one I read, so this was the first one I read, and it's funny enough, this was the very first thing that came up when I looked on E03 and just typed in Halloween. And the name,
really? Mm-hmm. Nice. I looked up Halloween too. It was a real mixed bag.
Oh yeah, well, so there's not a ton to the story. I just want to talk about it for a couple of interesting reasons. One, the title is called Halloween, Halloween Magic.
That's a twofer.
It's a twofer for sure. Okay, so this one's just sort of interesting in how how I got to it or how like just what I read about it. Because essentially what it says is that there's an editor's note that's like this story was uploaded to EO3 in like 2016, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking into that, and it comes from a community called The Basement. The Basement was a like blog of X-Files / fiction that started in 1998.
Nice, which we've already covered.
Exactly. So this it was one of those things that we talked about in the last episode. But so it basically like that was its own thing, and then there's an organization called OTW, which is the Organization for Transformative Works. And so like fan lore is one of their projects. It's like the fandom Wikipedia.
Oh, cool.
But they have a project called Open Doors, and Open Doors is dedicated to preserving fan works. And that's like the project that resulted in archiving all of this Basement stuff on EO3.
Oh, cool. So they're like art historians, like preserving fan fiction.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what I was interesting about that. And then I read through the story, and it's so like I said, it's a X-Files / fiction about Walter Skinner, which is Mulder and Scully's boss, and Alex Krycek. Do you remember Alex Krycek?
I don't. Krycek rings a bell. He sounds like a bad guy.
He was, yeah. So he was kind of like the anti-Mulder. Like the first time you see him, he is like Mulder's partner when Scully is gone, but you realize very quickly that he's working for the Cancer Man, and he's just like he's always like pulling strings. But he switched sides like all the time throughout the series.
Gotcha.
But he was just like he was basically, other than the Smoking Man, he was like one of the main antagonists because he was just this other agent that was always up to no good.
Gotcha. Quick sidebar: an anti-Mulder is a doldrum, so just it's not actually, but it's close enough.
I hate you.
That's fair. That's fair. That's a fair response. Go ahead.
So this story is pretty straightforward. It's just like it's broken up into 3 parts, and like the first part, it's just the two of them. They're having Scully over for dinner. Krycek makes a lasagna. He's really nervous because he doesn't know how to talk to Scully. The lasagna is delicious. They, they talk about music and museums and stuff. In the second, and then Scully leaves. And in the second part, they like go to a costume party at a museum, because it's around Halloween, and they have a nice time. And then, it's broken up into 4 parts. So then, in the third part, I guess this is the end of the second part, they get back from the museum costume party and just each other's brains out on.
Is there at least some
patio.
preamble, or do they has there been slowly growing costume related tension this whole time?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like there's this whole
nice.
Skinner brings up that his like favorite show when he was a kid was the Green Hornet. And so he keeps like there's all this like Green Hornet banter about whether or not the Green Hornet and Kato like have a thing together.
Well, they definitely do.
They definitely do. So yeah, I mean, and then the final act is they go on a hayride with Skinner's cousins.
Nice.
And that's it. That's nice. There's not really much to it.
That's great. Well, I'm glad that they found love.
Yeah.
And finally put that whole Green Hornet Kato thing to bed.
Yeah. Well, it's not the only thing they put to bed.
Hey.
Okay, so and so then I found one interesting. This one's like this one's not Halloween the season themed, but it just has to do with Michael Myers. So this is the summary from. Okay, so the name of the story is called Apples, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's when I was looking for the Michael Myers stuff, I was specifically looking for like hurt comfort Michael Myers stories. Just because I want to see how that would work.
Yeah, naturally. I want Michael Myers to, have A, someone see his face, and B, appreciate it.
Well, my friend, I have just the story for you.
Great.
That, I would say, is literally the only thing that happens in the story.
Excellent. Well, see, someone knew that there was a desire for that out in the world from me. So thank you. Who is the author?
Either Sad Boy Hours or Dr. Monster Love. One of those is in parentheses, but they're right next to each other.
Great.
I don't imagine it's Sad Boy Hours, Dr. Monster Love. But
I mean, though that is an elaborate name that I would appreciate.
Yeah. So, basically, the name of the story is called Apples, and the summary is, wrote something to calm myself down earlier. The title came from exactly what set me off in the first place.
Wait, he got real upset about apples?
Doc accidentally hurts himself and just loses it.
Gotcha.
So I guess Doc is the main character. So yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you sounds like. He or they, I don't know if it's a guy or girl or what, but they go into the kitchen, they grab a big knife, they start chopping apples. The knife slips, they cut their fingers, it bleeds, then they completely lose their shit and have a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time, like, they keep hearing, like squeaky floorboards and stuff in the house.
Cool.
So it's like, they cut their hands, they completely lose their shit, they have a panic attack, and then Michael Myers shows up with their butcher knife.
Mm-hmm.
And the original person starts freaking out even more and is just like, what do you want? Full-blown hyperventilating panic attack. And then Michael doesn't do anything. And then they say, Michael, what the f*** do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Michael doesn't do anything. But then, I'll just read this paragraph.
Great.
With one swift motion, his hand shot up and ripped off his mask. His eyes wide and eyebrows knitted together in a mixture of emotions. His lips were pursed, and it was obvious he was worried. Worried, confused, angry, maybe even a little frightened. The tears started flowing again, and without thinking, I leaned myself forward and put my head in his lap, making him jump slightly. I know he has an aversion to touch, but in the moment I wasn't thinking. I sobbed in his lap, even harder when he started petting my hair calmly. God, I'm so sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to yell at you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What was he doing yelling at Michael? What did Michael ever do? Except all the murders.
Except all the murders. Nothing to them, apparently, but can we deconstruct this for a second?
Yeah. There seems to be a lot going on there. These people seem to, want to be comforted, and probably really has a panic disorder, wants to be comforted, but wants to be comforted by, like, a movie serial killer.
So that's, that's kind of, I guess, my issue with this, which is that clearly this person, has anxiety or whatever, and is writing about it to help them, and that's great. But that they basically seemingly wrote verbatim exactly what happened to them earlier that day. The only thing they added was that Michael Myers came in and sympathized with them, and that's what made them feel better.
Yeah. I wonder if they were like... This was in 2016? Is that what you said?
I didn't say.
Oh, okay. Well, if this is a modern story, then maybe... Like, if this came out recently, maybe they had a panic attack, they were thinking about it, and then they, like, went to go watch Halloween or something like that, and so they're literally transposing that part of the experience in. I'm just trying to think of why Michael Myers comes to mind as the agent of comfort here.
This was apparently published in July of 2018.
Okay, so at least, like, the trailers were out at that point. So
maybe, but yeah, I mean, but it doesn't have to connect to the movie that just came out. I mean, like, Michael Myers is a presence in the zeitgeist. They could have just maybe, I don't know, always been afraid of the original Michael Myers in the original Halloween, and this was a way to, I don't know, take some control over that.
Yeah, maybe so. I kind of like the idea of a merciless killer being, the thing that they needed to, like, take their mask off was seeing just someone having an anxiety attack not related to being murdered by them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's kind of a sweet thought.
Curious. I have an alternate theory, too, that this was written by David Gordon Green.
Oh, this was his prep work.
Yeah.
He's really nervous about making Halloween. Was cutting some apples.
Exactly.
And then
so I got a couple more, and we're kind of blowing through mine.
Great.
So obviously, I wanted to start with Halloween and a slasher film, and then the next obvious choice, if we're going to try to dive into or get into Halloween fan fiction, I think is what I would call the most goth movie of all the goth movies.
Wait. Let me guess.
I am.
Lost Boys. The Craft.
The Craft is a good guess. But this is like
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas, yes.
Yes.
Because the Craft is a goth movie, but it's like surface level. You know, it's like what probably adult men who wrote it think teenage girls think about witchcraft.
Yeah.
And The Nightmare Before Christmas is like about, I think, some very damaged characters that teens actually connect to. I mean, Sally is like red flags all over the self-harm in that situation.
Oh, yeah. Like all the stitching up, like the wounds and stuff. Yeah, it's all, very
Jack Skellington, full-blown eating disorder.
Yeah. And like that look in the goth community too, like the tall, rail thin guy. Oh, man. Yeah, it's a thing.
So naturally, these got pretty erratic pretty fast.
Yeah. My Nightmare Before Christmas fanfic that I found also got very erotic. I wonder if it's the same one.
Ooh, yeah. Stop me if this sounds familiar.
Okay, I'm excited.
So, it's called A Very Merry Christmas.
No shit. It's the same one.
Is this the one?
This is the first time this has happened. That's great.
Well, do you wanna take it from here?
Well, I mean, we should team do this one.
Okay.
This is literally, we've never come across the same one before. this is like being struck by lightning. This is great. I guess we are doing a Halloween episode, but
the chances were higher, I think, than normal. But sure,
our focus is a little bit narrower, but still, A Very Merry Christmas. And that same author had a few, but that's the one that I read.
So they're all part of the series was called Bone and Stitches, I think.
Yeah,
which is hot, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
So I actually accidentally read the middle one. I guess Bone and Stitches is the larger thing, but then A Very Merry Christmas had 3 parts, and I read the second part by accident.
Gotcha. Well, I read the first part, so
why don't you kick us off and all?
Great. So it starts off very sweet, and clearly the author of this loves Nightmare Before Christmas because has so much love for the characters and is like writes very in depth about like their feelings.
And it's also, I think, very clear that the author is desperately crying for help.
Oh yeah,
I'm just kidding. This one is kind of like, this one is mostly just sweet, but there is one thing in particular that I think is weird about it.
There's a lot that I think is weird about it, but I want to hear your thing as well.
We'll get there when we get there, so please continue.
Okay, so the author is Kaka Shifan, 727. It starts out really sweet. Jack Skellington, dressed in his costume, his Santa costume, offers Sally a present. And the present is a ring so that they can get married because they've been together for 2 years, but only living together for about 6 months, which I thought was a fun detail that was added in. So they start kissing, and there's this whole long process of Jack Skellington being worried about if their sexual if this sexual exploration goes any further, that he doesn't know what to do because he's a literal skeleton with no penis. So
but he knows what sex is because I think there's like the implication that he remembers it from when he was alive.
Yeah, and he's read books next to her while she's asleep. That's another detail that like comes in. So I obviously, as reading this, am also interested in how they're gonna solve that sex issue. So we're going through, and it's very long, very sensual buildup. She's like undressing him and like kissing down his rib bones, and then gets all the way down to his like empty, scooped out pelvis, and just starts licking the inside of his pelvic bone. Yeah. And at that point, Jack is like losing it, like whimpering and like calling out Sally's name. And basically the thing that makes him go nuts is when she starts sucking on his tailbone. And that was just such a vivid, like visceral yeesh moment that I had. That
I think if you give me a second, I can find that quote.
Oh man. Well, I mean, it's all like they never once break the convention that he is a full-blown skeleton and she is a stitched together like zombie doll person.
Yeah, like he only touches her with his mandibles or whatever they call them.
Yeah, phalanges.
Phalanges, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
And it is hot.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Okay, I feel like
I found it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I'll start up a little bit higher, then I'll jump down to the good stuff.
Okay.
All he can do is moan as her hands work his spinal column. Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
So let's jump down a little bit. Whimpers freely escape him now as he feels her lips press hard and rough kisses around the inside curves of his pelvis. His body shakes as he feels the soft, wet, and warm texture of her tongue drag along his sensitive area, and he has to clutch the bedsheets with his phalanges in order to keep himself from involuntarily bucking his hips forward again, lest he accidentally hurt her. She continues to wrap her tongue and lips around his bones, slicking the porous surfaces, and sometimes even going so far as to suck on them. This drives him mad. Hands scrambling at the comforter, and heavy grunts of desire erupting out of his mouth. When he isn't pitifully moaning her name, which only spurs him on faster, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of bone sucking.
Yeah. He just nods, watching as she once again dips down to work on his pelvis and spinal cord. The longer she does so, the more he can feel his self-control evaporating. His bony feet starting to curl up from the pleasuring sensations. God, does she know what she is doing to him?
Does she know how to work a skeleton?
Does she know what she's doing to him? Does she know? Because
how could
bones.
She? How could she?
Bones.
She's literally just licking bones. Oh, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Wow. It's like that. Yeah.
It's 3 chapters of that.
So that is committing to a bit. So that was definitely the best I had. So I'm glad that you had it too.
That was the best you had?
Yeah. That's the best I've ever had.
You said that you found the weirdest erotica that you'd ever read.
Yeah, that's the weirdest erotica I've ever read. Is that not the weirdest erotica you've ever read?
I guess I'm just desensitized at this point.
I mean, I read the Harry Potter and Moaning Myrtle erotica, and that's weirder than Harry getting a weird ghost hand job.
I guess he was the one moaning in that scenario.
It's true. Yeah. Well, I do have 2 others. One is related to stuff that we've been talking about, and then another is just further proof that anything can be put into the fan fiction category. If you want me to jump into those.
Yeah, and so before you jump into yours, the last one I found was called Mutants Before Christmas, where Eric Lyncher is Sally, and Charles Xavier is Jack. And this is like, I don't know, there's like 20 chapters of it, but the first one opens with the opening song that Jack Skellington does, the like This Is Halloween song.
Oh, yeah.
When they're introducing Halloween Town. It's that song, except it's sung entirely by mutants, and all of the verses are changed to suit each mutant. Like, Beast pops out and he says, I am the one hanging from your ceiling fan, prehensile feet, soft blue fur, and very smart. Instead of like, I'm the one under your bed, or whatever they sing.
That's adorable.
There's a lot of it. There's a lot.
Can you give me just like a couple more? Because that is a very cute, silly idea.
Mm-hmm. Nightcrawler. I am a mutant with tail and blue face, here in a flash and gone without a trace.
Great. Give me another one.
This is the mutant chorus. This is our X. This is our X. Neat X. Great X. Our X. Only X. Proud X. Town X.
Aw, that's cute. Because they're X-Men.
Because they're X-Men. Instead of, yeah. Well, and it's they're in X-Town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mystique and Jubilee. In this town we call home, everyone's a mutant and very proud. That's the last one.
Didn't even try to go for the rhyme that time.
No, did not.
Oh, that's funny. That
okay.
is funny. Yeah, well, that's cute. I'm glad that I think that the goth community and the people that like really love Halloween are just, by and large, they're just sweetie pies, you know? They just
metal dudes too.
Also sweetie pies. I know.
Yeah,
like,
you've ever been
total
friends with,
metalhead.
Oh yeah.
Have you talked to him? He's just a weird goofball. And
yeah, they're the nicest dudes that you'll ever meet.
Yeah, and they will like full roundhouse kick your jaw off of your face, but like in good fun.
Sure. They'll also, like, those are the guys who you want to go to if you need to get your car jumped.
Yeah, that's true. They usually have tools and jumper cables.
Yeah.
Often as a part of a costume they're making.
Right.
So,
go ahead.
So, when I was looking for Halloween stuff, I also was looking for slash, but I didn't put the slasher slash thing together. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, again, man, proud of you. I found Death Note slash, which is the anime, which is sort of based on Sherlock Holmes, which I've been into recently, looking up Sherlock Holmes fanfic. What'd you say?
No, go ahead. Yeah, I don't know anything about Death Note.
Oh, well, let me just give you a quick little primer. L is sort of like Sherlock Holmes. He's this super brilliant detective. And Light is sort of like Moriarty, who has this Death Note book where if you write people's names down, they die. And so he's trying to...
What does Willem Dafoe play?
Willem Dafoe played the Shinigami, which is a demon of death who controls the Death Note, or who brings the Death Note to mortals, basically just because he's, an ancient demon who just enjoys watching people suffer.
So Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, he just played himself.
Yeah.
But it was very cute.
Again.
Yeah, it was slash. They this was the thing that I was only disappointed in this because they go to a Halloween party and basically fall in love. L and Light, they go and L dresses up like half-assedly like a vampire, and Light dressed up as a puppy dog. I thought another interesting detail was they started cuddling during the movie Dead Silent, which you probably haven't heard of, but it's like the same dudes that made Saw, and it looks terrible. I looked up a trailer, but that was just such a weird horror movie choice.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then they like kiss at the end, and they're like, "What is this feeling?" And Elle says, "I think it's love." And that was What Is This Feeling by Shy But Deadly.
You sure it's not called What Is This Feeling, in parentheses, I think it's love, -L.
Yeah, that would have saved some writing time. But, so that one was just fun and cute and fluffy and some Halloween slash. What I wanted was just give me something more clever with their Halloween costumes. Like if you're writing Halloween costume party fanfic and you're getting all of these different characters together, like really, like be creative with the Halloween costumes.
I would say that I spent at least 40, like conservatively 45 minutes last week just coming up with combination Halloween costumes with my boss.
Yeah, because it's fun.
Mashup costumes.
It's the best thing about Halloween is coming up with funny costumes. I was talking with Lindsay, and she was just like coming up with different medical related things to go for as Halloween. And my favorite were as a chemotherapy bag and a cane.
I guess just like a garbage bag with some
with just some like volumetric notes on it. In it. But anyway, yeah, I wanted a little bit more out of that. That's no disrespect, Shy But Deadly, but that's just what I wanted.
They were just a dog and what? A vampire?
A dog and like vampire? He just found some vampire fangs in a cape. And I'm just like, you could have dressed up as Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty or something like that. Like have fun with it, guys. Sure. But the next one that I found, I was happy. I basically just wanted to find Hocus Pocus fan fiction, and I did, and that was nice. And the writing in this was called A Meeting Between a Demon and Three Witches by YouTube Fandom Fan 2018. And that name of the author is going to come in at the end of this. So it starts out, very familiar scene. They are reviving the Sanderson sisters. And they all come back, and they're all very much their personalities from the movie Hocus Pocus. So classic. There's the bouncy, silly witch, the dumb witch, and then the bossy, like powerful leader witch gal. And so that was very fun. That was one of my favorite Halloween movies when I was a kid. But there's this dark, like green eye demon that has revived them. And it writes only in bold letters and is very creepy. And the Sanderson sisters are like really freaked out by it. And so they're going through this whole sequence, and they're about to go, start their reign of terror all over again. And then at the end, nobody asks, but the demon points out that nobody bothered to ask what his name was and says his name is Antiseptic Eye. And just leaves it there, which left me like, okay, who's Antiseptic Eye? Zach, can you guess who Antiseptic Eye is?
The author of the story spelled backwards?
No, that is a good guess, though. So I put it into Google just because I was like, am I missing out on some part of pop culture here that is being referenced? And yeah, I was. The strangest part of pop culture I've ever heard of. So there is an Irish YouTuber who does Let's Plays called Jacksepticeye.
What's a Let's Play?
Let's Plays are like when you play video games and talk about it and then upload you playing video games and talking about it on YouTube.
I have to stop you there because I'm going to shoot myself.
Yep. So that's
the end of the podcast, everybody.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Well, happy Halloween, everybody. So his name is Jacksepticeye, and this character, Antisepticeye, is a fan creation based on his creepy thumbnail images of this floating green eye, where Jacksepticeye is possessed by a demon, that floating green eye, and is evil and magical and is taking over Jacksepticeye's body.
Okay, let me try to wrap my head around this. There's a YouTube channel where a guy makes videos about playing video games. His fans have created a fan fiction based on the artwork on his YouTube channel.
Yeah.
That involve a demon possessing him. It looks like a green glowing eye. A la Sauron. And somebody else has written fan fiction about that demon interacting with the gals from Hocus Pocus.
Yep. It was
cool.
just Yeah, it was just one of those things that it's like, yeah, this is just proof. If you can think of it, it exists. Like, because I could have never thought of that, but it exists.
That's the thing. It's just the more we look at this stuff, the more I feel we're completely out of our element.
Yeah, we are. I don't feel equipped to understand the world. I feel less and less equipped to make sense out of the world.
I feel less secure in my position in this world than I did when we started.
Me too. Oh, yeah. Everything's fallen apart.
Good night, Andrew.
Good night, Zach.
Okay, so what's your best mashup costume?
Let me see. I would go as Megatron, which is just like the Transformer Megatron riding one of the Tron bikes.
That's pretty good.
Thanks.
Or
what's
yours? I do. This one's actually pretty easy because you can just cut them out of foam. I've done this before, but you do a crocodile head and lobster claws, and you go as crocodile rock lobster.
I like that. Let me see.
It's pretty easy.
There was a good one. We were joking about this the other day, and there was a good Bernie Sanders one. Oh, that was what it was. You just go as an old man on fire, and it's Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders?
Yeah.
Solid. You could be... Okay, hang on. You could be like a little French dessert pastry in a like debutante's dress, and you could be John Beignet Ramsey.
I like that. You could dress up as a buttermilk biscuit with a cane and go as Limp Biscuit.
That's plenty. Zach here, and thanks for listening. If you want to find more episodes, you can at fanfictionshow.com. Our Instagram and Twitter handles are at fanfictionshow. And if you want to contact us, you can at Xandrew at fanfictionshow.
Also, we did a pretty good job of citing our sources this week, so happy Halloween, suckers.
Happy Halloween, suckers.